add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often, if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
This is hiring.
Hiring on all cylinders.
Okay, recruiting pros, Rob Stevenson here for Hiring on All Cylinders, and get your sponges ready and prepare to scrub liquidy pink raw hamburger-like viscera off your walls, because I am going to blow your minds with the recruiting and talent acquisition advice. Not me personally, of course, I am not but a humble marketer, but I am joined by two wonderful, brilliant, intellectual giants of the recruiting world, one of whom, Amina Value-Add Moinadine, is sat right across from me. Amina, how are you?
Good. How are you, Rob?
So good. Really good to be back in the office. Get like the standard HOAC vibe back. HR Tech was a marathon. It was really fun, but I know I like this way better. I gotta say, I feel like I'm more at home.
Yeah, I think we like it better when you're gone, though.
Oh, brutal! I bet you were really productive that week.
Just kidding.
So, speaking of productivity, making any hires today? As long as we're talking shit.
So we might have to take this off, but
Okay.
Sid gave us a verbal.
Oh, Rob and Amina hire their bosses.
Rob and Amina hiring their bosses. Amina down, Rob to go.
Rob,
we're very,
we're close.
very close.
We're at the finish
like
line.
98% of the way there.
I love
to
it.
hire your boss, Rob. How do you feel?
I feel good. I mean, I was strong on this candidate. What's left? Is it kind of like salary negotiation? Where are we?
What's left is now just written offer letter and signing that offer letter. We've got the verbal commit.
Oh.
We've got the excitement going. We've got the start date down. We've got everything down. So now it's just time to put the pen to the paper.
I love it. And then we can bring a close to our favorite segment, Rob and Amina hire their bosses. It'll be over.
Yes, unfortunately, sad times.
No,
Just
it's
kidding.
good. I mean, it's good for the company,
No,
right?
we're good.
We'll find a new ridiculous segment to drag us onward. How is it having a boss?
It's really good. I'm so excited. I can't wait for all of our listeners to meet Britt soon
Right.
enough. She is amazing. Today we were in a meeting and there was clearly lack of communication going on, and Britt just stopped the meeting midway and said, all right, we got to start from the beginning. She went to the whiteboard and she just took over the meeting and she made shit happen, and
That's
it was
awesome.
awesome.
Can you go into specifics? Like, what did she blow up exactly?
We have aggressive engineering hiring goals, not so much about number, but the types of hires that we want to make by the end of this quarter. And we've got less than 3 months to go, and we don't really have a strategy. So we kind of had a room filled with hiring managers throwing out all of their ideas, talking about specific interviewers, talking about specific candidates, but we needed to backtrack and actually talk about what is our process and strategy going to be to even get these hires and to have successful interviews. So she kind of stopped the room 20 minutes in and said, okay, we need to just pull back. We need to talk process. We need to talk strategy. We need to talk sources. And she whiteboarded, and I think everybody in the room was just watching her, excited, listening, and we've got a good action item list going on, and we're looking forward to hopefully execute the strategy.
I love it. And as she's your boss, that had to be exciting to, like, you're kind of rubbing your hands a little bit like, oh yeah, she's taking over. We're going to see some cool stuff here.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting, and it was a really good opportunity for me to learn as well. And it's exciting to see that she's coming in. It's week 3. She's ready to go. She's ready to take ownership, and she's ready to change things. Not to say that things need to be changed here, but I think we have a lot of room for improvements.
Very diplomatically put, Amina.
Always, Rob.
So also joining us and waiting patiently in the wings here is someone I'm very excited for you all to meet, and I personally am thrilled to have met. She is the Director of Talent for Shopify, Director of Talent Acquisition for Shopify, and Anna Lambert is her name. Anna, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited you're here. You have kind of a unique story. So first of all,
I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 4 years ago, you were an HR intern, and fast forward, and now you're Director of Talent Acquisition. Can you just kind of chronicle the ass you kicked between now and then to like explain kind of where you are right now? Because it's super cool.
Sure. So I joined Shopify in 2011. I was looking for a role in Ottawa and looking for My background's in political science and communication, so totally unrelated.
Same.
That's how it always is.
Yep.
And I was looking for something. So I was interviewing with a number of spots in like the politics space, and nothing really clicked. I found myself in interviews like sweating and uncomfortable and trying to be someone that I'm not, and you know, being asked those questions. Tell me a time when you were challenged, and I wanted to respond. Currently, right now, sitting here, I'm so uncomfortable. And so I had an offer ready to go for one of those roles, and I had like 5 days left, and I was like, okay, I have to look and just see if there's something that suits me better. And I found this small company. This was 2011, 43 people, and I reached out to Harley, who's our COO. And I was like, hey, do you need an intern? And he was like, no. And I said, okay, well, I do like communications. I had done nothing at that moment. I worked for the town of Goderich.
Did you have like the bullet point? That's great communication skills.
Yeah.
On your resume?
Oh yeah, that was in the email.
Yeah. Proficient in Microsoft Office.
I've never had that one.
Which is a lie too, because like that usually means Word, Excel. That's probably it, right? But there's like 13 other products.
And I don't even really know how to use Excel that well.
No. I know how to Google how to do a formula in Excel.
Exactly. I know how to do sum.
So turned down as an intern by the COO, but did he passed you on?
Well, no, he invited me in to interview.
Great.
They didn't have a role, is kind of what he said. We don't have a role, but you should meet with Brittany. And Brittany, actually, who is also the name of my current boss, she at the time was the HR manager. So she was like, hey, let's meet for coffee. And we met for coffee, and she didn't have, there wasn't a role in communications, but I left being super excited by the work that she did. So that summer I joined as an HR intern, and then I actually ended up moving into business development and working with Harley for a year. We didn't have a recruiting team at the time, and then I was pulled back into HR when our very first recruiter, Doug, actually called. Well, he didn't call me. He came into the pod where I was and said, does anyone know how to use a chainsaw? And it was like crickets, and I was like, I'm from Goderich, so of course I know how to use a chainsaw. I was like, yep, me, what do you need? And I ended up being the woman with chainsaw in our first recruiting video, which was called Draw the Owl. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then a couple months later, I sat in on some interviews.
Just a classic recruitment career story.
Yeah, like everyone else's, fell into it with a chainsaw. And then a few months later, I found myself in interviews and was just totally blown away by the type of process that he was building there. And so joined the team, and 3 years later, now I'm leading the team of 43 folks in recruitment across 5 cities.
How about that?
43?
43.
Oh my God. So who are all those 43 people?
Yeah. So we've got 20 recruiters. We have 6 leads, and then myself, so seven in total. We have a team of researchers. That's our sourcing team. And we have coordinators, about 6 and 7 on those 2 teams. And they're all across all of our offices. Wow. Yeah, they also hire remotely for all of our customer support folks.
Very impressive. How large is Shopify?
We are over 1,500.
Wow.
Quite the squad.
Yeah.
Yes, quite the squad.
And how many employees were there when you joined?
43.
Wow.
And I joined the recruiting team when there were 150. So have been a part of the growth since then. And it's just been like super exciting to see not only how the recruitment team has grown, but our processes and the way that we work and what we value and our ability to hire a shit ton of people. And I didn't ask if I was allowed to swear.
Normally what I tell guests is normally what I tell them is you can swear, but I just ask that you nail it.
that.
Yeah, like that.
Okay.
So that was a good example. Don't do
perfect.
No frivolous swearing, but rhetorical swearing is
Gotcha.
encouraged.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question for you. So somebody whose goal is to be the director of recruiting, talent acquisition, eventually in my career, how did you get there? How are you in the role that you are today? And like, what are the challenges that you feel like you faced and were able to overcome?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a great question. I think the major one is that I didn't see opportunity as like a competition between me and my colleagues. I saw opportunity all around me, and there truly is. Like, I can speak for Shopify. There's and really anywhere, if you see it in that way, there's opportunity all around you. You just have to make it your own. And so I've moved from, like, I've recruited for almost every department at Shopify because there were needs to recruit in those areas. I've moved to Montreal, opened up that office, grew that office up, hired my replacement, came back. I was never super worried about like titles or like, I put, the team and Shopify first, and in return, Shopify, really, definitely kept me engaged and took great care of me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And very exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. Lots of challenges with like team structure and management. Like, management is definitely a difficult skill to go from loving that rush. Like, you're talking about this like, we're
Closing
ready to
a rec,
sign, closing
yeah.
a rec. It's like this rush that you get. And I definitely do far less recruiting, but I'm getting a huge thrill out of building a team and seeing them succeed and watching the work that we do impact Shopify in such a meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out to Danae Georgiou. Hope I'm saying that right.
Danae
And Kayla Boyer, two of your teammates, your recruiters, who reached out to me cold and were like, "Hey, love the show. You got to put our boss on it." And I was like, "All right, works for me." But they also sent me some notes.
They did.
So I'm gonna use some of those to kind of tee you off here.
I love it.
I like it. Thanks.
They pointed out that 90% of the team joined Shopify with no previous experience in recruitment or HR. So what was the training process like? What were the resources you used? Was there like trial and error? How do you, you're like, you kind of are similar in that way. Like,
yeah, I don't have a recruiting background.
Came in fresh. So how do you go from not being in recruitment to making 1,000 hires?
Yeah, and I think going back to the reason why maybe we don't have as many folks with recruitment background is that our process is unique and it doesn't necessarily require, like, we can teach you how to recruit. We can't teach you to be genuinely curious and, self-aware because, those things are really hard to teach, obviously. Yep. And so we look for these great qualities in folks that make them strong recruiters or researchers or coordinators. And then a lot of the skills we can teach. As we've grown, it's critical that you hire people who have experience as well. It balances out the team. There's ability for folks to mentor and teach and learn. But a lot of it was like doing a ton of interviews. So Doug Tetzner, he was Shopify's very first recruiter, and he came in and developed the life story, which is the very first step in our recruitment process. And to learn that, you basically sit in on a bunch of life stories with people who have done this before, and you start to pick up on the things that they do and learn, how they go from asking because they think they're supposed to ask those questions versus like, hey, this person is super interested in cheese. And you know what? We're going to dive into that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's surprising because most people in this industry would be like, what a waste of time. We have hired so many people in roles that maybe they didn't even know existed at Shopify because we genuinely care about human beings, not just the term bums in seats. I absolutely can't stand it. These are like human beings with lives, with families, with hobbies, stuff they do outside of work, and all of that contributes to their ability to have an impact. And so we're looking to get to know all of that in the life story. So as a new recruiter, you sit in on a ton of interviews and learn kind of how to best do that.
Totally. So that was something I wanted to ask you about. What is it that you learn from someone? I won't hold you to the affinity for cheese example, unless you want to be held to it. But like,
let's drop the cheese example.
when you dive into that, what are you hoping to learn about someone?
Yeah. So you want to learn about the transitions they've made, why they've made certain decisions. I can give an example of someone who applied for a position in a particular department that they had experience in. And throughout the life story, I learned that this person has this like super quirky and unique blog, and they're actually an incredible writer. And their passion is writing, but they assumed because so many organizations require you to have experience, professional experience in a certain space, they assumed that there was no way they could get a job. This would always be a hobby. And we dove into their passion and interest in writing, and there was a perfect role for them that suited their abilities, and also gave them an opportunity to learn from the folks around them. Now they're leading a team of writers.
So I think what you guys are doing is so interesting, and I think something that we can start thinking about doing here as well. What do you do in those roles, though, that do need a specific skill set?
Yeah, so this is just, the life story is the first step in the process, where we meet people and basically make a judgment call about what the next step should be, whether they should be rejected or they should be put into a particular process. Each department has their own department-specific interview types where we dive into the skill sets. And so it's not that necessarily, like, an engineer doesn't need to have a certain language in their tool belt in order to work on a product that requires that language. We acknowledge that they can learn that. I think definitely there are roles that there's like 5 people in the world with this, or in North America with this type of experience. And so there are typically similar ways that people got that experience, and we hone into that. And another key kind of factor when we're looking for certain skill sets is level of impact, because we do need a good balance of teachers and learners, and everyone can teach and learn from everyone else, but like, you need a manager every once in a while, you need a lead, you need a good structure, a good balance of levels.
And even in the case of a really technical candidate, it strikes me that you can still learn a lot from that question. So like you mentioned that it's like, what hard decisions did you have to make? Those might still be related to their work. It might be a career decision. It might be like, oh, I had to pick this company that I believed in versus what I thought was going to be a more lucrative career move, or maybe like a school choice, or like that kind of thing. So it can probably still tie back to their specific talent.
Yeah, we basically just go through their life story, and whatever things they bring up, they lead the beginning, and we go from a point of time in the past up until today, and we learn about like what they've had an impact on, what they've been engaged in doing, and all of those things, like their challenges, all those like typical interview questions. Tell me a time when. Yep. We learn all of that, but through a conversation like this, where you're just like chatting and getting to know them, and it's a standardized interview. We do the same thing every time, but it's personal to that individual.
How do you decide when to decline a candidate, since this is so personal?
I mean, we learn all about their skills, their experiences, their ability to solve problems. And so there's 2 pieces. There's their skill set compared to other candidates, and this is something we definitely look at. And I don't even like skill sets. It's their like ability to solve the problems that we're solving in the best way. Yep. And so there's that piece, and then there's also the element of, do we think that they will be successful here? And do we think that what they like to do and where they like to have an impact, that will match the problems that we're currently solving? And so, we look for themes, right? So you could pick up on a theme of every single thing that they did was them, and then you dig in further, and it was actually a team of 100 behind them. And so when we look for things like impact, which is one of the things that we look for in these interviews, we acknowledge that there's a lot on the interviewer. Like, they need to dive in and figure out what impact looks like for each individual. So impact for me, when I describe impact, I'm extroverted. I'm like physical in how I describe it. That's not how everyone describes or thinks about impact. And so we need to acknowledge the different types of both like candidates, personality types, cultures that will like differentiate the way someone discusses or describes their impact. Like, we hire for fit, but we define it extremely well. And I think that there's a lot going on about fit and the like total downside to hiring for fit. And that's a huge opportunity to discriminate against really great candidates. And when you define fit in a way that transcends dimensions of diversity and is, they're predictors for success, and you start to track them with data, then it's a pretty interesting way to maintain the quality of your hires.
I'm really glad you said that when you transcend fit as like a limiting thing, because usually the not a culture fit reason, it's like a cop out. Usually it's just like, not like me, or not like us.
Totally. So,
and the truth is, like, they don't have to be like you. In fact, maybe they shouldn't be like you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like we talk about like culture add versus culture fit.
Right. We talk about values alignment instead, and it's hard to come up with a word that hasn't been ruined by those startups who want people who want to drink beer with them or go out, like people who are like them. And so if you're ever looking to work for a company who has any sort of culture fit, values alignment, culture add, ask them, what is it? Like, define it for me. And if they can define it, especially in a way that is objective, is, you know, you're looking at certain things that do transcend race, ethnicity, age, gender, and our value adds to the business, then I mean, it works. I think
right, as long as there are things outside of socioeconomic status, educational background, the like the horrible, would I want to drink a beer with this person? Kind of test.
Like those should never be the questions.
No,
absolutely not. It doesn't really matter if you want to drink a beer with this person. I think what matters is, can you work with this person and can you solve the problems that we're solving here?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah. Then the whole, like, we're looking to build a company that will see the next 100 years. And there's no way when you're building a product at a global scale that without diversity of thought, without diversity of experience, and you know, that you'll be able to do that. And so in all of our hiring practices, we evaluate and reevaluate that opportunity and that, like, values alignment, culture add. Those are all things that you need to be constantly reevaluating to make sure that they aren't unintentionally or intentionally discriminating against anyone for any other reason, you know. But like for us, if someone says, like, who wouldn't you hire? Like, we don't hire people who take credit for other people's work or who are lazy or who, you know, who aren't engaged in the work that they do. We hire people who are engaged, who care about impact, and, you know, can work well, but not necessarily get along with their colleagues.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned the most from the people that I don't like.
That challenged you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who have you learned the most from at Shopify?
Oh my God.
What's her name?
Oh my God.
Let's do a little bit of LinkedIn stalking right now.
I've learned a lot. So
I'm kidding.
I've learned a lot from so many people.
I was going to out you as hating
Imagine,
people,
I'm like, so who do you hate the most?
That was basically what I was asking you, yeah. So those value-based culture questions. Are those the four fit factors? So we've got authenticity, level of engagement, level of impact, and self-awareness. Authenticity, we talk about that at Intello too. It's like, you are who you say you are. So
exactly.
You don't take credit for other people's work. You are actually a high performer. You've done the things you say you've done. You have the goals you say you have, that kind of thing. Level of impact, does that mean like in the organization? Like, what does level of impact mean to you?
I think it's more about being impact driven. So instead of thinking like, I'm going to go to work for 6 hours and try to do the least, it's like, what am I going to get done today? Like, how am I going to move the needle on my team, for myself, my own personal growth, for Shopify? And so we look for people who have had an impact in the past.
As a recruiter and being on the talent team, something that we're always talking about is how to be more data driven and how to use data to tell a story and how to really look at metrics. So how do you feel like you use data to tell a story?
So we're definitely data informed and not data driven.
Okay.
We're working with a couple really great folks at Shopify who they're on our people analytics team, and they're constantly trying to learn how, like, do our fit factors or are they predictive of success? So when we rank someone, you know, high on authenticity or high on engagement, does that result in them being a high performer? And so we can start to see, and this is absolutely a work in progress, but start to see the predictors of success with our recruitment process, with our onboarding process. So we tell stories with data in a number of ways, whether it's the entire recruitment process as it compares to other pieces of, you know, the employee life cycle, as well as just, you know, looking at an individual and their impact. And so you could have someone on the team that's hired 10 people and another person who's hired 100, and that data point alone means nothing without context behind it. So that person who hired 10, but they're these like super specialized roles that are extremely hard to find. You know, we have to move people to Ottawa, which, as you know, is colder than other places, such as San Francisco. But we do it because it's an awesome city. I'm learning so much about Canada
this episode.
Yeah. And compared to the other person who may have hired 100, like I said, and like equal equal performers, but the roles were different. The context was different. So we use data in a number of different ways. But definitely data informed, because there's always context behind why someone operates in some way. I really like looking at conversion rates, looking at if someone can gets better at attracting candidates, attracting diverse candidates, getting them into the process, making a call on them that, say, the hiring manager would agree with further along. And so I really like looking at conversion rates. We don't pay commission because, that encourages people to bring in the wrong folks for their own benefit. So we pay, competitive salaries with great benefits and equity in a company that someone can actually help build. And that means sometimes saying no to someone, who might have gotten you that extra number, but who would, do harm to the company.
Definitely. And then thinking about, I love looking at conversions, and I love looking at historical conversions. I've come up against this problem in marketing too, in terms of benchmarking. What's a good MQL to opportunity rate? What's a good landing page to visit to conversion rate? And there's not one answer, because there's no apples to apples. Some other company has a different product, has a different deal size, has a different whatever. There's a million different factors. So what I focus on is a great average for me is 5% better than last quarter. So you too can look at your recruiters and be are they converting better? Are they getting better in these certain areas? And then that's success in a way too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And we look at that. We use Lever. That's our applicant tracking system.
Love Lever.
And they're awesome.
They're so awesome.
And so
I love everybody on their team.
They're so they respond to feedback. You're hey, this didn't work well, and they're cool. We're gonna see if other people have said that. We might put it on our product roadmap, and then they do, and then they ship it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we look at Lever, and we can start to see over the last year, someone who maybe in the first 6 months you're how are they doing, and you can see their conversion rates from the first 3 months, which is ramp time, and then 3 months later, and then you can start to see as they close out the year, they might not have the most hires, but they're getting better and better at what they do and are being more strategic with their time.
Do the recruiters so you said you have a team of recruiters, then you also have a team of sourcers. So are the recruiters also doing sourcing, or are the sourcers just setting them up with candidates and then owning the process?
So our recruiters do both. They'll do outbound calls, they'll do some research, and depending on the roles and how much support they have from the research team. I really like that every recruiter at Shopify gets experience searching for their own candidates, doing that outreach call, going to the event and convincing someone who's no, I'm good, to come and meet with them for coffee. I think that's all really, really good experience for the recruiter. And then, if there is a role that we have a researcher on, then they can spend their time in other areas while the researcher fills the funnel.
Shameless ad. Do you use Intello?
Yeah. We have 6 seats.
Whoa, nice.
And how many recruiters do you have?
20 recruiters. There's 43 people on the team. Our researchers are the ones who use Intello the most.
Nice.
And they use the diversity filter, looking at meaningful ways to hire the best talent. And the best talent means that you have met with the best, that there's been, equal opportunity to meet with, great folks in that space. And so we do lots of things from a recruiting perspective, as well as there's a team of folks. Well, actually, this is exciting news. They are external education, and so they actually just partnered with Carleton University, which is a university in Ottawa, and you can now get your Bachelor of Computer Science while working at Shopify. So
that's super cool.
Yeah, which opens this up to folks from lower socioeconomic brackets, or who want to be able to, get real work experience while they, while they dive into the theory, and so they get both. They work experience as well as their computer science degree. It's called full stack education.
Wow. Full stack education. I love it. You heard it here first on Hiring on All Cylinders. I would love to keep picking your brain, but we're getting to optimal podcast length here, Anna. So I will simply say thank you so much for joining us. You're a gem. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
And to all you out there in podcast land, thank you for tuning in. I've been Rob Stevenson. You've been wonderful, beautiful, amazing recruiters. Have a spectacular week.